At Christmas dinner, my nephew smashed the PS5. I bought my son while my family laughed and said, he doesn't deserve nice things. The next morning, I quietly stopped paying their rent, car, and tuition. They thought I'd cave, until the police started calling. Hey Reddit, my family always expected me to fix everything and stay quiet about it. I did that for years, until they crossed a line with my kid. What happened after that changed everything. Before I get into it, here's how it all started. My name's Isaac. I'm 36, divorced, and a single dad to my 9-year-old son, Anthony. I work maintenance at a distribution center. Long hours, not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills and keeps life steady enough for us. I don't ask for much. A quiet life, my kid doing all right, and maybe one weekend where I'm not fixing something for somebody else. My parents, Matthew and Scarlett, don't really see it that way. To them, I'm the reliable one. The one who shows up early, helps set up, fixes whatever's broken, and keeps everybody calm. Every Christmas, my mom insists we all gather at their house. Family tradition, she calls it. I call it something I can't turn down without a fight. Anthony and I got there right on time. As soon as we walked in, my mom looked me over like I was a project she needed to correct. You look tired, Isaac, she said. Are you getting enough sleep? Yeah, Mom. Work's been busy. She didn't respond, just moved on to inspecting Anthony. Why is his hair so long? It gets in his eyes. And he looks too thin. Do you even feed him breakfast? Mom, I said quietly. He's fine. Anthony stepped behind me a little, not scared, just avoiding another comment. He's a good kid, polite, doesn't talk unless he has something worth saying. That's apparently a problem for my family. Matthew sat in his recliner, pretending not to hear anything. That's his specialty, staying out of it until it benefits him. We were barely settled before the front door swung open, and Maverick walked in like he owned the place. Late, of course. He had that same smirk he always wears, the one that says he expects everyone to forgive him before he even explains anything. Traffic was insane, he announced, brushing snow off his jacket. Not my fault. Abigail followed behind him, already complaining. There was no parking. Honestly, who invites people over and doesn't save them a spot in the driveway? And it's freezing in here. How do you stand this, Scarlett? My mom forced a smile. Oh, Abigail, you're so sensitive to temperature. Matthew, go adjust the thermostat. Matthew got up right away. No hesitation. If I asked him to adjust the thermostat, he'd tell me to put on socks. Miles barreled in next, yelling something unintelligible and immediately shoving Anthony out of the way so he could get to the living room first. Hey, I said, watch it. Miles didn't even look back. Abigail didn't either. Anthony brushed his shirt off and whispered, It's okay, Dad. But it wasn't. We all gathered in the living room while my mom fluttered around taking coats and pretending everything was perfect. Abigail flopped onto the couch like she was exhausted from walking 10 steps. She glanced at a plate Scarlett set down. Is that the appetizer? I thought you were making the roasted one from the recipe I sent. Scarlett froze, embarrassed, then forced a cheerful answer. Oh, we changed plans. Abigail rolled her eyes. Anthony stood next to me quietly, hands in his pockets. Scarlett looked at him again. He needs a new sweater. That one's too plain. And why won't he talk? Miles was never this quiet. Maybe quiet kids aren't a tragedy, I said. She ignored that. Miles was running circles around the coffee table, knocking into things, stepping on wrapping paper, shouting nonsense. Matthew gave a half-hearted, settle down, but Miles didn't even break pace. I brought the PlayStation 5 inside a little earlier and set it near the tree, wrapped up and tagged, nothing flashy. It was the big gift for Anthony this year. I'd saved slowly for months and got a decent deal from a coworker who upgraded. Scarlett noticed it immediately. That box looks expensive. Isaac, I hope you didn't go overboard again. It's fine, I said. It's for Anthony. She sniffed. Well, I hope you brought something for Miles too. And maybe something for your brother. He's had a rough year. I didn't answer because I didn't trust what would come out of my mouth. A few minutes later, Maverick waved me over near the hallway and lowered his voice. Hey man, next year I'm gonna need help again. Things are tight right now. And Mom said you'd understand. I never said that, I replied. He shrugged. Yeah, but you will. You always do. I just walked away, back toward Anthony, who was quietly looking at the ornaments like he wished somewhere else existed. Scarlett clapped her hands loudly. Everyone stop what you're doing. It's time for gifts. Just like that, the room went quiet. My stomach dropped a little because I already knew this Christmas wasn't going to end well. The living room turned into chaos the second Scarlett finished her announcement. Miles shot forward like someone had fired a starting gun. He dove under the tree, grabbed the biggest box he could reach, and ripped it open without looking at the tag. Wrapping paper flew everywhere. Abigail didn't even glance at him. Maverick leaned back on the couch with his arms crossed, watching like it was entertainment. Anthony stepped back a little, waiting for me or Scarlett to tell him he could start. He never rushed into anything, especially not in this house. I nodded, and he quietly crouched near the tree, checking tags before touching anything. His fingers traced the edges of one of the smaller gifts from my parents. He opened it slowly. New gloves, nothing special, but he smiled and whispered, "Thank you," like someone who didn't expect much in the first place. Meanwhile, Miles was yelling, "Is this it? Is there more? Where's the good stuff?" He tossed boxes aside as soon as he opened them. Some still had clothes half hanging out of the packaging. Scarlett chased behind him like he was a toddler. "Oh, be grateful, sweetheart," she said, even though he clearly wasn't listening. Anthony placed his opened glove box neatly next to him and didn't reach for another gift until he made eye contact with me again. I nodded again. He went for the next one. Scarlett's voice cut through the room. "Go on, Anthony. Open the big one your dad brought." I felt everyone's attention shift toward the PlayStation 5 box. Miles froze mid-movement. Abigail's eyes flicked over with instant judgment. Maverick sighed, already annoyed. Anthony carefully pulled the wrapping paper apart, not tearing it, folding it. And when the logo appeared, he stopped. His shoulders raised a little, like he was holding in a breath. A tiny smile slipped out. He pressed his lips together to hide it. Scarlett spoke first, loud enough for everyone. "Isaac, honestly, this is overboard." Abigail sniffed. "He's buying love. It's obvious." Maverick rolled his eyes. "Trying too hard, man." Anthony looked down quickly, shoulders tightening. Miles's expression twisted right away. Anger, jealousy, irritation. Like someone had stolen something from him. "That's not fair," Miles yelled. "Why does he get that?" Scarlett jumped in. "Miles, honey, you got plenty of nice things." "No, I didn't. Not like that." He stomped toward Anthony. Abigail leaned back on the couch and said loud enough for Anthony to hear, "Some people don't need these things. It's not like they earned it." Anthony froze again, but the smile disappeared. His hands were still on the box. He didn't lift it. He didn't even look up. Miles marched straight toward him, and before I could move, he grabbed the PlayStation 5 box with both hands and yanked it out of Anthony's lap. Anthony's head jerked up in shock. "Hey," I said, standing up immediately. My voice came out low but sharp. Miles didn't care. He held the box against his chest and glared at Anthony like he was the one who'd done something wrong. "My dad says you don't deserve stuff like this." I felt the whole room shift. Even Maverick looked at me for a second before pretending he didn't. "Give it back," I said, but I didn't raise my voice. Miles didn't. He took 3 steps back, turned toward the foyer, and threw the box with everything he had. It hit the hardwood, bounced, slid, and cracked against the bottom stair. The plastic made a sound you don't forget. Anthony's face dropped instantly. No crying, no yelling, just this blank look like something inside him folded in half. Scarlett gasped and pointed at me. "Isaac, why on earth would you bring something so fragile here? You know how kids get." I stared at her. "He threw it." She waved that off like it didn't matter. "You should have known better." Matthew didn't look up from his recliner. "Miles is just spirited. Don't ruin Christmas over this." Abigail actually smirked, like she enjoyed watching it play out. Maverick stayed still, arms crossed, saying nothing. He wasn't embarrassed. He looked almost satisfied. Anthony didn't look at anyone. He just stared at the broken box at the bottom of the stairs. I walked over and picked it up. The cardboard had split, but that wasn't the problem. I peeled the top open just enough to see inside. One corner of the console was crushed, the casing spiderwebbed with a crack that ran like a fault line. When I shifted it in my hands, something inside clicked loose. Useless. Not worth fixing. Not worth pretending it could be saved. I walked back to Anthony and crouched down so we were face to face. His eyes were shiny but steady. "Get your jacket," I said softly. Scarlett's voice shot across the room. "You're not leaving. We still have dessert. You're being dramatic." I didn't respond. Anthony put his gloves back in their box, closed it gently, and walked to the entryway without a single word. I put on my coat. Anthony slipped his hand into mine. Scarlett shouted from behind us, "You're ruining the night for everyone!" But I kept walking. So did Anthony. When the door closed behind us, the cold air felt cleaner than anything inside that house. As we stepped off the porch, Anthony finally spoke in a small voice that hit harder than anything else that night. "Dad, can we just go home?" By the time Anthony and I got home, the sky was dark and the streets were empty. He didn't say much during the drive. He just watched the road ahead and held the sleeve of his jacket with both hands, like he was still trying to process everything. When we walked inside, he went straight to take a shower without being asked. That's how I knew the night hit him harder than he let on. After he brushed his teeth, he climbed into bed and pulled the blanket up to his chin. I sat beside him for a minute. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, I just didn't think he'd do that." "I know," I said. "It wasn't your fault." He nodded again, slower this time. I turned off his lamp and cracked the door on my way out. He was asleep within minutes. The apartment felt too quiet once his door clicked shut. I sat at the kitchen table without turning on the overhead light. The broken console, still in its box, was on the counter where I'd set it down earlier. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and let my mind settle. Not drift, not spiral. Just settle enough to see things clearly. For more than 2 years, I'd been covering a chunk of Maverick's rent. It started after he lost one of his jobs. He said it was temporary. "Just till I get back on my feet," he told me. But he never really got back on anything. Every month I sent the transfer, and every month he treated it like it was the natural order of things. Then came the car payment. He wanted a newer SUV for the kids. He told me he'd pay it himself once tax season hit. That was over a year and a half ago. And it wasn't that he forgot. It was that he'd let it fall behind and counted on me to catch it at the last second. I'd gotten the emails, the late notices, the final warning language that pretends it's polite while it threatens to take your vehicle. The account had been in the red more than once. A repo didn't happen sooner because I kept bailing it out right before the deadline. My money wasn't helping him build a life. It was just delaying consequences. And the school tuition. That one didn't even come from him at first. Scarlett called me one night saying Miles needed opportunities, that public school wasn't the right environment for him, and Maverick didn't have the resources to provide. She told me, "You're the responsible son. You know what doing the right thing looks like." She said Anthony and Miles were family, and family should lift each other up. Every sentence was a push. Every push worked. Eventually, paying for all of them became routine. Quiet, expected, unappreciated. Sitting there in the kitchen, it hit me how normal they all treated it. Like my paycheck existed to plug holes in Maverick's life. Every month they took more and thanked less. I hadn't realized how far it had gone until tonight, when the kid I hadn't bought the PlayStation for smashed the one I did buy. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. The screen lit up the whole room. The rent autopay was the first thing I checked. Same amount, same date, next one due in a week. My thumb rested over the toggle for a second, but not because I was uncertain. It was habit. Years of telling myself it wasn't worth the fight. I turned it off. Then the car loan contribution. Another autopay. A bigger one. That got canceled too. I scrolled to the school's billing account. My name sat right there on the payment profile. How Scarlett had convinced me that paying for Miles's tuition was my duty, I couldn't even explain anymore. I removed the card. Deleted the profile completely. 3 commitments gone in under a minute. I stared at the screen once the last confirmation popped up. The totals of what I'd been spending weren't small. When I added them in my head, they almost didn't sound real. How I had carried that much without ever demanding anything back still amazed me. Not in a proud way, just in a worn-out way. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't feeling anything dramatic. I just sat there, breathing steady, feeling the weight of something easing off my shoulders one quiet inch at a time. For years, they acted like I was built for this. Like being the one who kept everything functioning was my identity. Every time I helped, they found a new angle to lean on. Every time I stayed quiet, they took more space. It felt almost embarrassing, realizing how long I'd let it go on. I locked my phone and set it on the table. Then I looked at the broken PlayStation box again. Not because of the money, not because of the item, but because Anthony had held it like it meant something, and they didn't care enough to let him have that moment. The plastic wasn't the part that broke tonight. It was the excuse I kept making for all of them. I leaned back in the chair and said it out loud, even though nobody was there to hear it. "They didn't break the PlayStation," I said quietly. "They broke the last excuse I had to keep helping them." The first message hit my phone before sunrise. "Maverick, rent didn't go through. Fix it." Then another. "Are you awake?" I was making coffee when the next 10 came in rapid fire. "What's going on?" "My bank says nothing even tried to process." "Call the landlord." "Seriously, dude. Call him now." I set the phone down and kept getting Anthony ready for school like it was any other morning. He was eating cereal quietly, still carrying the weight of last night. I didn't want him anywhere near this mess. A little after 7, the meltdown reached a new level. "Bro, the car is gone. Repo truck took it. They said the account was already past due and the last payment didn't hit." "Did you do this on purpose?" You sabotaged my life. I didn't answer. Anthony looked up once when the vibration wouldn't stop. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, don't worry about it. More buzzing. This time, Abigail. Rent is due today. Send it. Here are the bills for the week. Handle this. She attached photos, utilities, daycare, and overdue internet bill. Fix this right now. The kids need stability. Stop being stubborn. I blocked her. The phone rang. My mom. I picked up because I didn't want her showing up unannounced. What did you do? Her voice hit me immediately. Your brother's car is gone. They can't drive the kids anywhere. You are punishing children. I'm not punishing anyone. I stopped paying their bills. You have always helped, she snapped. You don't get to quit because of a tantrum over a toy. Anthony stiffened. I walked to the hallway, but she was too loud for distance to matter. For God's sake, she went on. Anthony is spoiled and you're teaching him to be selfish. I gripped the phone. Don't talk about him. My dad's voice cut in. Just handle it quietly. Fix the car. Fix the rent. Don't make the family look bad. I'm done, I said. You will fix it. I hung up. The texts kept coming. You're jealous. Admit it. Everyone sees it. You hate that people actually like me. The delusion would have been funny if the situation wasn't already so exhausting. Around 9:30, there was a sudden burst of pounding on my front door. Angry, heavy hits that rattled the frame. Anthony froze in the hallway. I checked the peephole. My parents stood on the porch, dressed like they'd left the house in a rush, faces tight with fury. Open this door, my mom yelled. No, I said through the door. My dad hammered the wood. We're not leaving until you talk like an adult. I said no. You can't treat us like this, my mom shouted. Let us in. You came to yell, I replied. I'm not opening the door for that. We raised you better than this, she snapped. You help your family. You don't abandon them. She wasn't finished. If you don't make this right, don't expect to be part of anything important again. And don't expect anything from us when we're gone. That actually made me laugh. Not mockingly, just because it was the most desperate threat she had. She heard it. Oh, you think this is funny? There was another round of pounding, before they finally stormed back to their car. Tires screeched as they pulled away. The house went quiet again. Anthony stepped out slowly, still clutching the strap of his backpack. Dad? Yeah? Grandma hates us now, doesn't she? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I didn't have an answer. Not one I was willing to say to a kid who didn't deserve any of this. The next morning should have been normal. I got up early, made breakfast for Anthony, and went out to warm up the car. I didn't even make it halfway across the parking lot before I stopped dead. Long, deep key scratches ran down the passenger side, one long drag from the front door to the rear. The windshield had a cracked starburst right in the center, like someone hit it with something sharp, and the tires looked off. When I crouched down, all 4 valve stems had been ripped out. The car wasn't drivable, not even close. Trash, actual ripped bags of household trash, was scattered across the small strip of grass in front of my apartment. Someone had tossed it from the street. I stood there in the cold, looking at the damage, feeling that familiar sinking feeling I'd tried to avoid for years. It wasn't random. Not the scratches, not the windshield, not the trash. My phone buzzed. Scarlett, if you hadn't acted out, none of this would be happening. I pocketed the phone and walked back toward the apartment. Anthony was at the door, backpack on, ready for school. He saw my face and stepped outside. What happened to the car? It got damaged, I said. We'll take the bus today. He nodded like that was fine, but his eyes drifted to the yard. He walked over to a bush near the sidewalk, crouched, and picked something out of the branches. Dad, look. I took it from him. A torn piece of a jacket sleeve, dark blue, with a little patch shaped like a lightning bolt. I'd seen that design before. Miles wore that jacket yesterday. I slipped the fabric into my pocket. Anthony's voice was quiet. Do you think they came here? I don't know yet, I said. Let's check something first. Inside, I turned on the computer and opened my home security footage. I'd installed a basic set of cameras after the divorce. Nothing expensive, just enough to watch the driveway and the front door. I pulled up last night's timeline. At 1:43 a.m., the driveway camera picked up movement. A figure walking slowly past my car. Hoodie up, shoulders hunched, but the body shape and height matched Maverick too closely for coincidence. He walked around the car once, paused, then moved toward the side of the house and out of frame. My stomach tightened. I checked the side camera next. At 2:17 a.m., it caught someone smaller, much smaller, walking along the edge of the grass with their hands in their pockets. Same jacket as the piece Anthony found. Miles. And a second later, the edge of an adult's shadow cut across the frame, Someone just out of view, close enough to guide him, but careful not to get caught on camera. He wasn't wandering. He'd been brought. Anthony stood behind me, arms crossed. Dad, Abigail told him to ruin the gift. She said you were trying to make me feel special and that I needed to be brought down a little. I turned toward him. She said that to him? He nodded. He told me before dinner, but I didn't think he'd actually do anything. I pulled up the clips again, slower this time. This wasn't just a family fight anymore. They were coming onto my property at night. They damaged my car, they trashed my yard, and they brought a kid into it. I grabbed my keys and phone. We're filing a report. At the police station, the officer at the desk listened without interrupting. I handed over the footage on a flash drive, photos of the car, and the piece of Miles's jacket. While I filled out the formal statement, my phone buzzed again. Scarlett, you're being dramatic. Kids get upset. They wander. You're blowing everything out of proportion. Another message. Matthew. Family doesn't call the police on family. I didn't answer either one. As we were leaving the station, my phone vibrated again, this time from my neighbor across the parking lot. Saw a dark SUV circling your building last night around 1-ish. Thought it was weird. I couldn't see the plate, but it moved slow like it was looking for something. I thanked him and slipped the phone away. Back at home, Anthony took off his shoes and sat on the couch, watching me with that quiet, steady stare he has when he's trying to figure out how worried he should be. Are we in trouble? He asked. No, I said. But they are. He nodded, not scared, just tired. Tired in a way a kid shouldn't be. A couple of hours passed before the detective assigned to the case called. I told him everything again, walked through the timeline, and emailed copies of the recordings. He listened carefully, then said, based on what you submitted, this qualifies as vandalism, trespassing, and possibly endangerment if a minor was involved. If we get a clear match on prints, or if the camera footage holds up, there may be multiple charges. I thanked him and hung up. For the first time in years, I felt something close to solid ground forming under my feet. Not because things were getting easier, but because I finally stopped pretending they couldn't get this bad. They had crossed into something I wasn't ignoring anymore. 2 days passed after I filed the vandalism report. Anthony went back to school, and for the first time since Christmas, things felt almost normal. Not peaceful, just quiet enough that I could think. I was in the kitchen rinsing dishes when my phone rang. The screen showed Anthony's school. I answered immediately. This is Anthony's dad. The woman on the other end hesitated. Thank you. I'm calling to verify a request we received earlier today. My hand tightened on the edge of the counter. What request? She lowered her voice like she already knew something was off. We received a voicemail from a woman who said she was Anthony's stepmother. She said she was calling on your behalf to update his pickup routine for the rest of the week. For a second, I didn't speak. Anthony doesn't have a stepmother. There was a pause. Then, that's what our records show as well. We didn't make any changes. We flagged the call and recorded it. Would you like us to send you the audio? Yes, I said. Please. The file came through while I was still holding the phone. I thanked her and hung up, then hit play. The voice was calm, confident, slightly rushed, like she didn't want questions. This is Anthony's stepmom. I'm calling because his dad asked me to update his pickup schedule. Someone else will be picking him up this week, so please change the file. Everything's fine. We're just adjusting schedules. No hesitation, just authority. I didn't need to replay it to know exactly who it was. Anthony walked into the kitchen halfway through the recording. He stopped when he saw my face. What's that? He asked. I stopped the audio. Nothing you need to worry about. He nodded, but he didn't move. He could tell this wasn't nothing. I stepped into the hallway and called my mom. She pretended to be my wife, I said, the moment she answered. She called Anthony's school. Oh, for heaven's sake, she replied immediately. Maybe she misspoke. Maybe she was just trying to help while you were busy. She tried to change who picks him up. Well, nothing happened, did it? She snapped. So why are you making it worse? I'm not, I said. She crossed a line. You're obsessed with lines, she shot back. You're seeing threats everywhere. I'm protecting my son, she scoffed. You're destroying this family. I hung up. A text came in almost right away. This is insane. We never said she was your wife. You're twisting everything. You're trying to make us look dangerous. I didn't reply. I packed Anthony into the car and drove straight to the station. The officer at the desk recognized my name before I finished explaining. I handed over the voicemail, the call log, and the previous report number. This is impersonation, he said after listening, and it involves a minor. He left the room and returned about 20 minutes later. We're going to help you file for an emergency protective order. Given the escalation, a judge can approve it quickly. I signed the paperwork without hesitation. On the drive home, Anthony stared out the window. Are we in trouble? No, I said. I've got you. When we pulled into the lot, the sun was already dropping behind the buildings. Anthony went inside and headed to his room. I locked the door behind us, double-checked the chain, and leaned against it for a second. Then there was a knock. Not polite, not hesitant, heavy and deliberate. I checked the peephole. My brother stood on the porch again, hands in his jacket pockets, jaw tight, the same look he gets when he thinks he can push until someone folds. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You didn't have to do this, he said. You're dragging everyone into your mess. You let your wife call my son's school. She was trying to fix things. By pretending to be my wife? He looked away, then back. She didn't think it would go this far. You came onto my property. You damaged my car. He didn't deny it. You forced our hand. I took a step closer. You told your kid to break my son's gift. He exhaled sharply. She told him to. Said Anthony needed to be humbled. Said you were making him think he was better than everyone else. My chest tightened, but I didn't raise my voice. My son did nothing to you. You think you're innocent here? He said. You think you're the good guy? I turned around, opened the door, and shut it. Anthony stood in the hallway, eyes wide. Is he gone? He asked. Yes. Is he coming back? No, I said. He's not. An hour later, my phone rang again. Same detective. We got preliminary forensic results, he said. We pulled usable prints off your gas cap. We can't tell you whose yet, but they're strong enough to compare, and we're working a match. Combined with the footage, we're moving forward. I thanked him and hung up. My phone buzzed once more. Scarlett, you're destroying this family. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I set the phone down, walked to Anthony's doorway, and watched him doing homework at his desk, pencil moving steadily like none of this chaos should ever be part of his world. I didn't destroy anything. I finally stopped letting them destroy us. The legal stuff didn't explode all at once. It came in pieces. Emails, phone calls, paperwork that showed up in plain envelopes, property damage, impersonation, harassment. Each charge felt heavy when I read it, but not surprising. It was like watching something I already knew finally get written down by someone else. My brother tried once to reach out through a mutual contact. It didn't work. His wife didn't try at all after the protective order went through. Everything went quiet on their end, the way it does when people realize consequences don't care how loud they get. My parents, though, stayed loud. The first message came a week later. This has gone too far. You need to fix this. Apologize and we can talk. I didn't reply. Then came the calls. Voicemails stacked up, each one repeating the same idea in different words. Family, forgiveness, embarrassment. What will people think? How could I do this to them? Not once did either of them ask how Anthony was doing. The last voicemail was from my dad. His voice sounded tired, but firm. If you don't apologize to your brother and his wife, we're done. We're not going to pretend this behavior is acceptable. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. I opened my contacts and removed both of their numbers. That night, I sat Anthony down at the kitchen table. I need to explain something, I said, and I'm going to be honest. He nodded, already serious. I told him everything in simple terms. That what happened at Christmas wasn't okay. That what came after was worse. That some people don't know how to stop when they feel wronged. That protecting him mattered more than keeping peace. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he stared at the table for a long moment. So we don't have to go back? He asked. No, I said. We don't. His face crumpled then. He didn't try to hide it. He leaned forward and pressed his forehead into his arms and cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just relief spilling out in a way only kids do when they finally feel safe enough to let go. I hated it there, he said between breaths. I didn't want to say it because I thought you needed them. I reached across the table and put my hand on his back. I don't need anyone who makes you feel small. One evening, a few months later, there was a knock at the door. Not the angry pounding from before. Not urgent, just firm, expectant. I checked the peephole and felt that familiar, old tightening in my chest. My parents stood in the hallway, side by side, coats still on, like they planned to stay just long enough to say what they came to say. I didn't open the door right away. When I did, I stepped out and closed it behind me. My mom crossed her arms immediately. We need to talk. No, I said. You want to talk. My dad exhaled like I'd already disappointed him. You've dragged this on long enough. I didn't drag anything, I said. I stopped. That's not how family works, my mom snapped. You don't get to walk away and pretend you're the victim. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My dad took a step closer. Your brother is dealing with legal trouble because of you. People are asking questions. This has embarrassed us. I didn't damage my own car, I said. I didn't send anyone to my son's school. And I didn't tell a kid to hurt another kid. My mom waved that away. You're obsessed with blame. Families forgive. Families protect kids, I said. I did that. Her mouth tightened. So that's it? You're cutting us out? I didn't cut anyone out, I said. I set boundaries. You just don't like where they are. My dad's voice dropped. If you keep this up, don't expect to be included in anything going forward. I waited. He straightened. We're talking about the will, the house, everything. There it was. I nodded once. Okay. My mom blinked. That's it? You don't even care? I care about my son sleeping through the night, I said. I care about him not being afraid of grown adults. I care about my home being quiet. My dad shook his head. You're choosing pride over family. No, I said. I'm choosing my kid over control. Silence settled between us. Not dramatic, just final. My mom searched my face like she expected me to crack. When I didn't, she looked away first. This isn't over, she said. It is for me, I replied. I opened the door behind me. Neither of them followed me inside. One afternoon, months later, I brought home a box and set it on the table. Anthony froze when he saw it. Dad, is that... Open it, I said. It was another PlayStation 5. Same model. New. I'd saved for it the right way this time. He didn't tear into the box. He opened it carefully, like he was afraid it might disappear. When he realized it was real, he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me. He didn't let go right away. I stood there with my arms around him, staring at the wall, feeling something settle into place that I hadn't even realized was missing. December came again faster than I expected. This time, we didn't go anywhere. We cooked together on Christmas Eve, burned the first batch of food, laughed about it. Anthony insisted on picking the music. I let him stay up later than usual. We played games until we got tired and fell asleep on the couch. On Christmas morning, Anthony opened his gifts and smiled without looking around to see who was watching. I made coffee and eggs. We ate together at the table, still in pajamas. Later, we set up the console and played until our eyes hurt, no one telling us we were doing it wrong. At one point, Anthony paused the game and looked at me. This is my favorite Christmas, he said. I nodded. Mine too. That afternoon, I thought about my parents, about my brother, about how easily they cut me off once I stopped being useful. It stung, but not the way I expected. The real pain wasn't losing them. It was realizing I never really had them in the way I thought I did. What I had was a role, a function, a wallet. Once I stopped playing that part, there was nothing left for them to hold on to. And that was fine, because what I gained instead was quiet, stability, a home where my son didn't have to brace himself for someone else's moods, a life where boundaries weren't punishments, just lines that kept us safe. I didn't win anything. I didn't come out on top. I just stopped losing. Peace wasn't given to us. I created it, and Anthony finally gets to grow up in it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.